Today, I want to talk about a very important figure in my life. Now, this person's been dead for about 14, going on 15 years, and I've never met him. I'm not related to him, thank God, because he kind of looked like Shrek. But Patrice O'Neal, a dead comedian, changed my life. It changed my life in a couple ways. Now, he's very outspoken. He was like your comedian's favorite comedian. Joe Rogan would go on to say that, he would have the biggest podcast today. People like Dave Chappelle revere him as one of the best. But he never made it to his full potential. He died way before anybody would know him on, the global scale that we do, like a Dave Chappelle or, Cat Williams or even somebody like Shane Gillis, right? He never reached that status because who says status like that? Status. He never reached that status because of what a lot of people view as self-sabotage. Now, I want to get into why he was so important in my life, or to me in my progression as a young man. Has something to do with women, my view on women, and another part is honesty. Authenticity, how it can be rewarded in a day and age where it's a lot easier to make millions of dollars pretending like you're somebody else, playing off a persona. Now, he was real almost to a fault. He was so real that he would go into like a executive's office looking to give him like a pilot for a TV show and call his wife a whore because he saw a picture on the desk. Like, yo, she kind of looks like a whore. And the executive's like, fuck, you're supposed to kiss my ass to get this show. You're not supposed to be honest. What I liked about Patrice is he is easily one of the few people who you can tell never had to pretend. Now, of course, does everybody lie to some extent? Of course. Whether it's fabrication, whether it's outright just lying and pretending like you're somebody you're not. He was consistent. Now, how I listen to him today is not through comedy sets, but he would go on this old radio show called Opie and Anthony. Now, it's very old. I think it's like 2008. That's ancient, right? But when he would go on there, he would yap about anything. The Vietnam War, Ronald Reagan, women, something going on in today's age. Like back then, it was probably Lindsay Lohan doing coke or some shit. And he would have the funniest segment talking about it. Why? How is it that a man like that, he was about 6'5", 300 pounds, looked like an ogre? I mentioned Shrek earlier. How is it that he can still get more women than my entire bloodline? How is it that he's able to make you laugh on the drop of a dime and get that true laughter out of you? Say something so unpolitically correct or politically incorrect that it gets a laugh out of your gut. Not from your mind, oh, is it okay to laugh? But literally like, everybody in the room's like, oh my gosh, wow. Those were the type of laughters he would get out of people. Now, I know I'm yapping and I'm circling around the point, but the point is that it was because he was so brutally honest. He was so brutally honest that even me 15 years later, I look at him and I see him as a symbol of authenticity. We use that word a lot nowadays. I see like streamers or influencers who, get credited as being authentic. Wow, you're so genuine. We love that word these days. You're so genuine. But the truth is, they're not. Because they have brands to protect. They have brand deals. I think you have to look at somebody who was so honest that he was branded as like a self-saboteur. Like a self-sabotaging behavior. He was so funny, yet didn't have that success because he didn't kiss nobody's ass. It wasn't in his nature. Let him explain it. All he had was his word and his honesty. That's all he had. He would rather live a life being honest and authentic, truly, than kissing people's asses and getting far more success. I think that's more virtuous than anything. Honesty. Something I want to do with this channel is be honest. Be authentic. Even when I'm explaining an embarrassing story, like when I was in Vegas and got blue balls from a French lady, or when I got ghosted. No man wants to admit he gets ghosted by a girl. It's embarrassing, but it happens. And we relate to it because it happens. And I don't want to pull any punches when it comes to opinion, public opinion, private opinion. When I'm speaking to my friends, especially, I don't want to be lying. I remember actually having a group discussion with my friends like a couple months ago where I basically asked them, would you rather be friends with a honest asshole or a fake nice person? A lot of them said fake nice person. Probably a group of 5 of us were on like a round table in the back patio of some of their houses. They're like roommates and shit. Some of their houses. A house that they all live in. I remember asking them that question. And I was the only one like defending the point. Now, I don't know if they're playing devil's advocate. I don't know if they're just trying to piss me off. But they all said the fake nice person. They didn't outright say it, but they said it because it's smooth conversation. You know, it doesn't really hurt anybody's feelings. Sure, they may say some things behind your back, but you don't really find out about it until later. That time where you guys are going back and forth, it feels seamless. Now, I don't know if I was birthed with a fucking pair of glasses bigger than these, where I can just sense when somebody's trying to get something out of you, or they're pretending to be your friend because it's easy. But I don't care for that. I like the idea of genuine connection. If I hate you, I know I hate you. If I love you, I know I love you. There's no fluff in between. So when I hear somebody like Patrice talk, it really exemplifies everything that I feel. And when I speak to my friends, I see everything that I don't want, which is fake. Oh, it's a smooth conversation. Yeah, it's sure they're fake, but it's like you don't know that in the moment. Debating semantics like that can be useful because you realize how many people feel that way. Now, ideally, most of us would say, yeah, I want a genuine person. I want a girl who really loves me for me and not my money. Of course, we'd say that in theory, but if you look how we conduct ourselves, a lot of times we put up with a lot of BS. One of the things that sticks out, what Patrice would say, he's like, I don't feel like being nice to you at 8 a.m. And they ended up reenacting this on one of the TV shows he was on called Tough Crowd, where he got kicked off of a show. I don't think it was The Office, but it was something else. And it was because he was, quote unquote, rude. He was an asshole to one of the production assistants. It was a lady who was like, hi, Patrice, how are you? He was like, ugh. He was like, ugh, what? And it's not out of hatred that he says something like that. Or he questions like, why, what do you want? I don't think it comes from a true place of I'm better than you and I own you and I'm like superior to you. I think it just comes from a place of me personally. I'm speaking for Patrice here. Me personally, I don't feel like being nice to you at 8 a.m. I don't. It's 8 a.m. Everybody's fucking caffeine addicted and the coffee machine's broken. You gotta warm me up first. You can't just come at me with your niceness and then now I have to be nice or else I'm an asshole. What I see from there is a big picture. Small interaction, but big picture. That's, you're doing something not because you want to do it. You're being nice not because you actually feel like being nice. At what point you're supposed to ask yourself, I want a genuine interaction with somebody. There I go using that fucking word again, but I want a true connection with another person. In order to do that, you know, oftentimes it takes time. Why does it take time? Because you get more comfortable with each other to where you can cut out that fluff. You know, you can call a girl 2 weeks into talking to her and she'd be like, I don't feel like talking right now. Would she say that in the beginning? No, she'd be like, hi, how are you? Oh, I'm kind of busy. She would come up with an excuse. But as you get more and more comfortable with even your friend, be like, yo, bro, I don't feel like talking. I'll call you if I want to. You wouldn't do that off rip because you could get branded an asshole, a bad person, an immoral person. What I liked about Patrice is he had no problem cutting out that fluff immediately when he met you. Now, a lot of times he'd start off on the wrong foot with people. People who met him, they're like, ugh, he's a polarizing figure. When I look at people like him, Kanye, and I mentioned in my last video my admiration for Kanye, it's pre-Nazism, okay? And he apologized to a rabbi. He might be back. But I just like people who are so themselves that you either love them or you hate them. I think that says a lot to our true nature as humans. You know, no one's that nice. No one's that good of a person. Now, of course, I don't like the idea of going out and being an asshole for the sake of it. Ew, what the fuck? You're not better than other people. Your ego is the size of a peanut, but you think it's the size of a fucking planet. I see that. But I like the idea that there's a duality to things. No one's just nice. No one's just evil. No one's just good. Right? And this is where like Jungian terms come in. Carl Jung, an old psychologist, would say you have to encounter your shadow. You have to acknowledge the parts of yourselves that you don't want to show nobody on earth because it's ugly, it's gross. But it's in us all. So when I come across a figure like Patrice, I see somebody who embodied that. He was so full of life when he spoke about something he was passionate about. He would give his take and be able to get a gut laugh straight from your stomach. After making why do I keep saying unpolitical? A politically incorrect joke that you're not supposed to laugh at around a girl because you don't want her to think that you're a ist or ism. But when you're with your boys, you're able to, that's funny, Patrice. He calls bullshit on a lot of things. And his bullshit detector was something that I've never seen before. There's a beautiful, beautiful 5-minute video of him. I don't know the words of it exactly, so maybe somebody could search it up. Maybe you've already seen it if you're a fan of Patrice, but there's an interview. He was getting interviewed by like a dude, like a white dude, who he could tell wasn't being himself. And he's getting interviewed behind the scenes of a radio show he's about to go on. They're like, "Hey Patrice, can we get like 5 minutes of your time?" He's like, "What? All right, what? Okay." They set up the camera, and he's like, "So, how do you feel about today? Like, are you feeling good? Are you feeling funny?" And he looks at him. He's like, "Ugh, what is this, dude? What is this?" And what you see with the interview is very interesting. He starts to become himself slowly but surely. Patrice goes on this little short rant where he's talking about how like fake everything in here is. He ends up roasting like the black woman in there. Okay, that's who he was. I don't agree with everything he says, but that shit was funny. That was hilarious. He was like, "Don't try to charm me with your third world humor." Okay, you're not laughing? I thought that shit was hilarious. He even said like because she was from Nigeria. She was just being nice. She was like the lady that I said in the example before, where like she came up to me, "Hi Patrice, how are you? So we're gonna go over here." And he's just like, "Ugh, stop trying to charm me." And he was like, "If you had the chance, you would take my fingerprint and like turn me into some like third world scam, try to steal my identity." That shit is hilarious. Nobody wants to say that type of joke because you don't want to get called an asshole. Now, when I look at somebody like Patrice, he's revered. He is an asshole. The same way Steve Jobs is an asshole to his whole team, but we know his name. He's immortalized in a way, not for being an asshole for the sake of it, but for being so real that he spoke and moved in accordance to how he felt. That's something we're not afforded the luxury of doing nowadays. Because in order to do what you truly feel, you have to spend time with yourself. You got to stop scrolling. You got to stop caring about what people think of you. And to some extent, we all have that in us. We want to like not care about people's opinions, whether you set up a camera and a microphone like me, or you're going on a date with a girl for the first time. You want to be in that freedom state where you can just be who you are. Patrice was who he was. He's an example of someone who did that, who accomplished what we all want to set out to do without the fluff, without the pretentiousness, without the sugarcoating. He just was. That's why I like him. Was he funny? He was hilarious. Now, as a stand-up comic, I honestly prefer Dave Chappelle more. I do. I think like his storytelling is more effective, especially like his earlier stuff. His vocal inflections were very hilarious. Extremely funny. Maybe you could pick up on how I talk sometimes in some of my videos where, I'll use some of that and it's almost like indirectly, but it's inspired by him. I really like his stuff, but I do think he's more brand aware, more brand conscious. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently. But when you look at somebody like Patrice, you can't go to another comedian, you can't go to another person and hold them to a similar standard. Someone who is so themselves and so aligned to brutal honesty that he could have been way bigger than he actually was. You reach a level of realness that you can't find anywhere else. You can't. It's not smart to be that real, by the way, because he could have had way more money, way more success, and he died at like 42 or 44 or something like that to a stroke because he didn't want to put down a donut. 6'5", 350 pounds probably. He had diabetes damn near his whole adult life, and he just lived with it. It's like, I know I'm going to die soon. It became funny. It became a part of his material. The fact that he was facing immortality. And honestly, that could be where he got his need for being honest from. He knew he was going to die. If you knew you were going to die in the next 10 years, knock on wood, next 10, 20 years maybe, how would you spend your time? you'd probably forget about it and get scrolling and start gooning when you see like your TikTok feed and shit. Because that's just where we're at as Gen Z people. Our brains don't even exist anymore. We're so hyperstimulated from scrolling. But if you were to cut out scrolling and spend like 3 hours to yourself, you'd be like, I would try to pretend as little as possible. Because why? Why would you go about pretending? So you can get along easy with people? What I found with Patrice is he got along great with a lot of people. A lot of people love Patrice. Love him. 15 years later, like me. You don't get that by pretending. You get that by being yourself. In a brutal sense. Even if it hurts other people's hurts people's feelings. Now, when I look at him, I don't look at somebody who, hated people. I don't think he was prejudiced. I don't think he thought he was superior to other people. Now, he would say, I'm better than you when he's talking about his girlfriend or something like that. But even then, I don't think that comes from a place of innate, I own you. I am a superior race. I'm cut from a different cloth than you are, meaning my words mean more. I don't think he carried that with him. I think he's just honest. And how people responded to that told more about them than it did him. Because regardless of how someone reacted, he was himself. So honestly, I look at him like a fucking case study at this point. Like a case study of how honesty can be rewarded and also disregarded at the same time. It's unfortunate that he wasn't as big as he could have been. It's unfortunate that people like Dave Chappelle, Joe Rogan, and anybody else who loved him at that time looked at him like, dude, you could have just put down the fucking donut and say some nice things about the Jewish executive in Hollywood. But he didn't. Instead, he would poke around. He wouldn't do things that he didn't feel like doing. That's honestly how I want to wrap this up. We don't have that connection to a feeling anymore. Now, I get really critical of myself when it comes to women these days because I'm starting to learn something different. I don't just want to get some play by any means. I think those times are behind me where it's like, yo, I'm going to lie my way into getting some. I'm going to pretend I'm somebody I'm not. I want to get it by being myself. I want to get into a relationship by being myself because I know whatever comes afterwards. Okay, maybe not the getting play part, because at that point, if you're not trying to have a relationship with them, doesn't matter if you're honest or not, as long as you get to play, whatever. But morally, okay, when you get in a relationship though, oh my gosh, 3 months in, you start to see real, true colors. I like the idea of seeing true colors immediately because it saves you time. Now, the reason why we don't show our true selves is because we don't want someone to reject us. But wouldn't you rather them reject you immediately off the first meet than 3 months in when you told your mom about her, when you told your friends about her? Wouldn't you rather do that? Not for the sake of saving time, but for the sake of saving you that embarrassment. Now you're attached to something that doesn't exist. Now you're attached to something that you built, but the foundation of it is faulty. It's like building a house on sand. Holy shit, I'm getting too philosophical. I'm yapping too much. Honesty, man. I love it. The truth. In a way, yes. That objective tone of voice. Should you go around hurting people's feelings for the sake of it? Of course not. And I will never advocate for just outright hate. But whether it's a combination of me reading Nietzsche, which I'll probably get into in like my next couple videos, or seeing it personified in the comedic sets or the interviews or the the radio shows of Patrice, where he's talking for hours and hours and hours on end and being consistently himself, I can't help but feel like honesty is one of the highest, probably the highest virtue, because it's truth. Without truth, anything else is invalidated. Like people love you, but do they love you because of you, or is it what you do? And as soon as you stop doing it, do they still love you? It's like stripping everything of the color and bringing everything to its base, its foundation. Patrice helped me in doing that. Because now when I look forward to like this YouTube channel, for example, I had a video where I was doing, you can even see this. This is a good example. My first couple videos, I'm doing like reactions. You can see the thumbnails is kind of like trendy. That's what everybody else is kind of doing with the thumbnail, the title even. And I'm reacting to other people. I'm reacting to other people saying, other people doing. It got decent traction in the beginning for like a channel with 0 subscribers. What really changed for me, and you can see this in real time, I'm not even making shit up. There's a video, scroll down a little bit, you'll see it's me talking about Akash and his wife. And boy, oh boy, would Patrice O'Neal have a whole hour-long monologue roasting the shit out of him and breaking down female nature and shit. I'm telling you, that guy, he knew his shit. A little inflammatory, I understand, but so it may not be your cup of tea, but goodness gracious, it works. If it clicks, it clicks. But I ended up making a video. Do I think I was pretending and faking opinion? No, not necessarily. But I know in my heart of hearts, I don't want this channel or anything else I touch with my hands or that I set out to do to be based on someone else. In order for me to get another video that gets 2,000 views, which relative for this small ass channel is really good, I just sat back and I was like, ugh. Like, yeah, I got these views, it's a little dopamine spike, but it's like, ugh, I gotta rely on, my next video can't come out until Akash divorces her. Or he responds, oh my gosh, this influencer got banned on, it's like, ugh. I don't want to have to rely on other people because that's not what I want with this. It's not aligned to what I want. It's not how I feel. Patrice was somebody who did what he felt. Even if it came at his expense, he did what he felt. He felt like eating fucking vanilla covered Oreos till he died. He felt like it and he did it. That's the most baller shit to do. You know, it's not pretending. It's cutting out all the extra fat. So I instead made a pivot. I made a pivot in my content. And I know it's only within a week, but still, I'm talking about things I care about. Things that I feel. Now if I get a subscriber, or I get views, or I get a like on my video, it means something. Because it's not at the need of covering someone else's life, which I don't want to do. That's not sustainable. I would end up hating my existence if I went viral in one of those earlier videos. Because now I have to maintain it. I have to constantly look at other people for content when that's not what I want. I want to do and say what I want, what I feel like. A lot of times it's me telling stories about my life. It may not be the most interesting life, but I think I have a unique take on it because I'm living it. And I have no problem being honest in a sea of people who do care. Care about their reputation, which of course I do, but they care about how they're perceived. It's almost like an act of living out my life in accordance to the same thing that Patrice believed in, which is being yourself. Me making that Akash video, was it being myself? This is much more what it is. Talking about shit I care about, regardless of who sees it. There's something to it. And expanding it past beyond YouTube. Even how I carry myself in relationships, whether it's friendships, with women, or just career in the future. There's no other way to live. That's how I see it. Honesty is the highest virtue, and Patrice O'Neal embodied it through and through all the way up until he died. Rest in peace.